Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.
Hello. Welcome to Heart of the Tribe. My name is Chelle Wagner. I'm getting back in the swing of things. It's been a while since I regularly made videos, so I'm kind of getting back into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about destabilization through deceit. And tomorrow, I have a real treat for you because Dr. Stephen Pidgeon's going to come on and we'll delve much further into this line of a topic and what's going on, current events, things going on in our country, things we need to be aware of. So I'm really looking forward to that presentation. You know, this is what I've been thinking about, is how this happens. Destabilization is the name of the game that we are in right now. When you destabilize a country and destabilize their way of life, to where nothing works like it used to work. Nothing is what it used to be. That's the process that we're in, and that's how the enemy comes in and takes over a country and decimates it. And I'm afraid that's where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and add my presentation to the stage, and we're going to go through it and see what we can discover about some things that are going on. All right, destabilization through deceit. How is it being perpetrated right now? I mean, I felt like 2020 was a trauma experience that gave everyone in the whole world PTSD, except those who were perpetrating it. I mean, that's kind of what it has ended up feeling like sometimes. It was a really rough experience for everyone. And we're before that and continuing on to now, we really have entered this a culture of plagues. Everybody's always constantly afraid of the next one that's going to be unleashed, right? There's these things wound the soul. People become frozen in fear and then driven by fear. I really talked about like the fostering of anger through generative optogenetics in the one of the recent presentations that I did called Scientific Sorcery. If you haven't seen that one, go take a look at it. It really explains a lot of what's going on. We've got, that's a DARPA program, right? Everything is constant. We've got fears right now with war, with the economy, with robotics, with the technology, black mirrors and black magic happening, hive mind being produced. We've got false flags and real flags at this point that we need to be worried about, right? There is just so much going on. Okay. So what if we're dealing with workers of the underworld, workers of deceit? That Faustian bargain is when you make that deal with the devil. And I think that unfortunately for us, we're dealing with a culture and leadership in this country. And I've talked about this before. I've talked about past presidents making deals with the grays, with the gray aliens. People, I mean, even, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I would have thought anybody talking about aliens being actual or real was a lunatic. Now it's admitted freely, right? And all the reports are coming out. There's a reason Star Force has been a new branch of our military. It's crazy. There's just so much going on, but it's pulled by the puppet strings of the underworld and principalities of the air that watchers from long ago that believe that they're still going to throw God off of his throne, throw Yah off of his throne. And that's not going to happen, right? He's got a plan that way supersedes his plan. And it's amazing to me how he takes the plans of the enemy and uses them for his purposes. So we're dealing with a bunch of frauds, fakes, and tricksters. And we need to know that. All right. I love this in 2 Corinthians 11:12. It says, but I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it. It says, but I will continue doing what I have always done. This will undercut those who are looking for an opportunity to boast that their work is just like ours. These people are false apostles. They are deceitful workers who disguise themselves as apostles of Christ. But I'm not surprised. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no wonder that his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. In the end, they will get the punishment their wicked deeds deserve. 100%. Thank you, Yah, for your word. So in this country, we've been brought up really to worship, right, our liberty, our freedom, our civil rights, our Constitution, our churches, our clubs, our jobs, our schools, our medical system, our president, our homes, our rights, and our families. Now, I 100% love those things. I grew up, 4th of July was always my favorite holiday. My mom would go buy this great big juicy country watermelon and she'd cut it in half and she'd get a honeydew and a cantaloupe and we'd together make melon balls and we'd scoop the whole watermelon out and turn it all into these pretty little balls. And it was beautiful. And we'd bought all the little paper, USA flags and we'd stick them in there. And we had sparklers and we played in the pool and had pool parties. And it was a fun day. It was a day to celebrate. And I was brought up, you honor your veterans, you honor those in the service. And I am still greatly appreciative of our servicemen. I'm not so greatly appreciative of the tricksters that have gotten us into needless, endless wars, stealing the wealth from the hardworking Americans of this country. I'm not so happy about that. And that's where we are. And I think that we have to realize this is where we are, our medical system. I grew up that, you trusted your doctor. I have a doctor that I trust right now, but he's a naturopath. he's a chiropractor. He's a wellness physician, right? I trust him. Absolutely. I'd trust him with my life. He's that much of a wonderful person, and cares about people. And he's out to do good and not harm. He understands that Yah created our bodies to heal. And he's on a mission to partner with Yah in that. I'm so grateful for that provision right where I live in this little small place, small town America. It's not even a town, community. Oh, so facing all these things at my age and how I've grown up, I have to do an honest self-examination to deal with the times that I am in. And so I wrote this list for myself and I share it with you. And I'm asking myself, am I emotionally tough? Or do I cower and fall apart every time something doesn't go how I was hoping it would go? Have I built a resilient spirit, and don't allow my emotions to lead me around, Am I mentally tough? Can I handle some hardship? Am I physically tough? Well, as much as I can be. I shared recently, and it's so funny. I shared on my Telegram channel recently, right, the senior citizen bug out plan. There's I don't have a bug out plan that's going to include, in the shape that I am in right now, and the age that I am right now, that's going to include me huffing a 40-pound backpack across the woods. That's not it for me. I do believe that I'm going on that greater exodus. I don't know how Yah's going to do it. I know that it's so important that he is fostering a spirit of community and cooperation within his people, with the display of the fruit of the spirit that gives a hand to a brother or sister that's in need, that sees value in all people, from the oldest to the youngest. So I'm glad to be a part of his family, because somehow I have total faith that he's going to call us out of the nations, take us on a trek, and empower us to arrive there intact without our shoes wearing out, just like he did before. And we'll be fed, and we'll be okay. I need to take an account of little things that trip me up. What is it that causes me to lose my peace? Really kind of talked about that some too in that scientific sorcery video. When things are being manipulated, and the enemy now has the ability to change my DNA and my RNA using light like a paintbrush, I have to be aware of, am I being manipulated? Like when emotions hit me that are not in line with the Ruach HaKodesh, to ask myself, where's this coming from? Stop, right? Just pause and go, why am I feeling agitated? What can I do to relieve that agitation? Can I give myself a timeout? Have I learned a scripture and I have it in my heart that comforts me at all times? I mean, I have a picture totally, I love Psalm 33. Yah, you are a shield around me. You are a shield around me, and I just proclaim truth. And that's helpful to me. There's a lot of things that when walking really close with the Ruach HaKodesh, he will whisper, this is the way, walk in it. Like, this is the word to proclaim. Speak this out of your mouth. Do this, and that's, I'm really grateful for that. Now, sometimes it's not outside forces, right? Sometimes it's my own character defects and my own things, weeds in my heart that haven't been dealt with yet, because they are not all going to be dealt with until I am face to face with the Messiah and he completes his work in me of making me 100% whole, right? That's what he's doing. He is perfecting me, but I'm on the path, and I'm going to be on the path. I'm working out my salvation with fear and trembling before him day by day, right? So I need to know what causes me to lose my peace. What is it within me? What are my own hangups, my own things, my things from the past, and deal with them and put them under the blood so that they are not a handicap to me and whoever he has given me a sphere of influence with, in order to walk his path and his ways, right? Do I trust Yahweh enough, okay, to accept when it's time for me to shake the dust off my shoes, right? There comes those times. It's interesting. I was reading something out of for Ezra today in chapter 2. And it talks about that. And in chapter 1, it was talking about how the land grieved and Yerushalayim grieved as if she was a widow, forsaken, at the loss of her children. How Yah's heart hurts for those who choose the evil path, right? It literally hurts, just like a woman that has rebellious children that will not honor Yah in their ways, that she feels like a woman widowed and forsaken. And it really touched my heart reading that this morning and meditating on that, of how Yah grieves for his lost children, for those who will not bow their knee to him, but are constantly seeking after usually more knowledge, usually some trinket, something that's been dangled in subtlety, just like the enemy did with Eve, dangling something in subtlety before us, making us want to reach for that rather than walk in his ways and trust him. It happens to all of us. And so knowing when I've done all that I can do in a situation, it doesn't mean I'm damning anybody to hell or giving up on them. I can pray as long as Yah continues to put them on my heart. But maybe he's going to send somebody else, praying that he does send someone else that they can hear. And but knowing when I've done all that I can do, and it's time for me to let go. And that is especially hard when you're dealing with family. That is really a tough one. Very tough. Okay. But it all comes down to trust him. Can I let people go? This is what I'm talking about. Or am I like Lot's wife? And I'm looking back, because I am convinced that the reason she looked back is because she still had daughters in that city, and it froze her into a pillar of salt to look back instead of be willing to go on with what Yah had for her future. Her daughters could have certainly used her wisdom and devotion to Yah, and we wouldn't have ended up with some. I think it's the Ammonites and the Moabites, or we wouldn't have ended up with what we ended up with. Of course, it is what it is, and Yah uses even the worst of things to bring about wonders, because that was incestuous relationships, right, with Lot and his daughters. But the Moabites, well, Ruth came from there, right? She came from there, and she is in the lineage of Mashiach, right? Do I recognize too when I'm being manipulated, right? And that was kind of like, am I being manipulated by people? Am I being manipulated by circumstances? Am I, being manipulated by things that are going to cause me to lose my peace? Am I being manipulated by people, right? Can I recognize it? It's funny. Everybody has their gifts, right? And Robert and I got a real life example. I was in a situation where someone was definitely trying to manipulate me, without a doubt, and wanted me to do something that was not in Yah's interest. But boy, was it sneaky, and boy, was it subtle. And Robert and I, before I had to make this decision and have a conversation with this particular person to make this decision, Robert and I had gone on a walk, right? And we were walking through the trails, and we had a lot of rain in our area, and it was a very woodsy, it was an old mill area, and it was very woodsy, and the snakes were out. And I'm just bebopping along, right? Holding his hand and talking about whatever I'm talking about, because my husband can be a man of few words, but he doesn't mind that I talk and talk and bounce things off of him all the time. But we're walking along, and suddenly he throws out his hand, his arm, blocking me, and a snake was rearing right up at me, right? And I was just going to walk right into it. And he blocked me, and he went, "Honey, watch where you're going," right? And it was like, ooh. And then we walk up onto this platform where part of the old mill had been, and he walks up first, and there's a water moccasin sunning itself, and he said, "Honey, don't walk that way, there's water moccasin right there." And so later on that walk, I'm just pondering that, because when snakes show up in my life, usually Yah's trying to teach me something when I see them, right? So what I heard y'all say to me is, listen to Robert. He always sees the snakes first. And it was like, oh, okay, now. And I knew immediately it had to do with a decision that I needed to make. And I really didn't pick up on how I was being manipulated. But after the conversation that I had had, I went to him and I explained this, that, and the other. And he went, you're being set up. Don't do it. You're being set up. And I knew he was right. And Yah was so faithful, right, to show me. So I'm so grateful that I have a husband that I can lean on. Two are stronger than one, and a three-cord cord is not easily broken. So when I'm trusting my husband and I'm trusting Yah, and that I've got that threefold cord, and what a blessing that is in my life, right? So during a conflict, this is a good one, right? Can I see the part I play and take responsibility? I've been in ministry for a little bit. I've been doing Heart of the Tribe ministry for a while, and I have made big mistakes. I've made mistakes with people, and it hurt them, and I'm so sorry that I did. And it's the growing up process. Dr. Pigeon told me when I began it, he said, you're going to make some mistakes. And boy, was he right. Because we're human, and we still have our own learning process to go through, our own sanctification process to go through. And I hate it that, there's times when I have fallen so short, but it's the truth. And I will continue to make mistakes, and people will continue to get hurt, but hopefully, on that learning process, we get better and better. I think that at this point, humility can be our greatest asset, when we can go before Yah and say, boy, did I miss it. Wow, did I mess that one up? I think that I really hurt them. And I'm praying, Father, that even though they can't hear me or my apology at this point in their lives, that you bring healing, and that you heal those places where I was the one responsible for that hurt, right? So do I know how to repent when I'm wrong? That's what I keep that as a forefront in my life. In fact, Robert and I, we really pray about that every day, that we would be able to, that Yah would forgive us. We repent daily for the things that we do wrong, that we don't even realize we're doing it wrong. Because there's a lot of that. There's a ton of that. Living in the age that we live in, and moving at the pace that we move, and just going through life and our humanity, we are going to make big mistakes. And we've got to be able to go to the Father and say, I just forgive me for those things that you haven't even brought to my mind yet. And yet I'm certain that I'm guilty, and because I am not in my renewed state yet. I'm not there. I'm still fighting the flesh, right? Paul said, I do the things I don't want to do. Sometimes we're aware, and we repent with knowledge. Other things we're not even aware, right? Do I understand that I'm living in a day when bitter is mixed with the sweet, right? Can I see the mixtures all around me? Because if I've learned one thing from the scriptures, Yah hates the mixtures, does not like the mixtures. He does not want bitter and sweet in the same cup, right? Am I full of pride, or do I humbly admit my failings and shortcomings? I think we've kind of talked about that. Do I run from my sins in shame, right? Do I let shame, that spirit of shame, that ruach of shame, that evil ruach, do I let it try to chain me up and keep me down? Or do I realize the value of the forgiveness that I can walk in instantly from Yahusha, where if I will just have an honest, upfront relationship with him, he wipes away those things miraculously, and I can start my day over at any moment, right? I love what was it, Anne of Green Gables, her teacher, Miss Shirley, was saying, every day today is always fresh with no mistakes in it yet. Right? And that's it. We get to live that way with Yah, to where we have new opportunities. I can start my day over at any time, right? So, do I think I can outsmart AI? That's a big one. No, I need the wisdom of Yah. If I am going to live in this world, I need the wisdom of Yah moment by moment, because we are dealing with ancient entities. And, I'm starting to look a little ancient, maybe, but I'm not ancient. And I don't have ancient wisdom unless I get it from the Ruach HaKodesh and with what he counsels me in and shares with me. So I'm not going to be smarter than anything unless I have the Ruach HaKodesh as my counselor. All right, I'm soon going to do a show called Dynamics of Peace. I had started this Fruit of the Spirit series, and now that my family is not all living with me and I have time to work on things again, I am going to continue my Fruit of the Spirit series, the dynamics of living in peace, in shalom, because I think that it's going to be the most valuable thing that we've got. In Isaiah, an admonition, I think it's Isaiah 40, but an admonition was given through the prophet Isaiah to the people saying, I wanted you to be able to live in quietness and confidence, but you just wouldn't have it. You just wouldn't have it. And I know, see, he said in his scriptures, he was dealing with people that had a heart of stone, but at the end of days, he is going to have a people with a heart of flesh. All right, so deception. I thought just a few interesting things on deception. In Romans chapter, and I'll make this big again so that we can see it. In Romans chapter 16, verses 17b through 18. All right. Watch out for people who cause divisions and upset people's faith by teaching things contrary to what you've been taught. So at the time that this was being taught by Paul, he was like, okay, you've been given, I believe he was dealing with Talmudic teachings, because Yahusha had just been coming against the synagogue of Satan. He called out the Pharisees and the Sadducees as being vipers that make proselytes twice the son of hell that they were. And I think that might have been Paul's words in Jude, right? But I believe he was dealing with that Pharisaical system that put burdens way too busy for people to be able to handle, So this is what was being taught at that time. It's like, don't be let off. Don't accept the fact that now you have to be circumcised. Yahusha has made a new way. This is what Paul was teaching, right? There are certain things that have been done away with, right? He was talking about all the additions. Now the church has taken that to say, yep, Old Testament's not even relevant anymore. All that's done away with. That's what he meant. That's not true. It's such bad teaching. It just wasn't. So it says, the word in Romans 16:25, it says the way has been opened. It's a mystery, right? The way, there's 22 mysteries in the new covenant scriptures, right? It says the way has been opened for those not of a Hebrew bloodline to enter the kingdom of heaven due to the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahusha. That's what the mystery is, right? Galatians 5 is wonderful to read on this. And this really trips up a lot of those who have bought the theology of our current day church system, right? Because the feast and the Sabbath are brand new concepts to most believers. and they think that everything was done away with, and it wasn't. It's a covenant. It's an eternal covenant. It's a sign, literally, that you are marked when that is your belief system. All right, Galatians 5, 1-3. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Mashiach has made us free, and be not entangled with the yoke of bondage. I, Paul, set forth as concerning you, except that Mashiach was circumcised, none of you benefit. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised that he is a debtor to the whole law. So what's Paul saying? He's saying if you think that it is following the letter of the law, right, that will save you, you're wrong. You better keep all of it, right? Because it's not that either. There is a difference. Christ has set us free. Yahushua HaMashiach has set us free. We could have never kept that law, and it was in place to show us that we couldn't. We needed a kinsman redeemer. Verses 4 and 5, ye are abolished from Mashiach. He's like, if you think that the law is what's going to save you at this point, you're abolished from Mashiach. Whoever is justified by the law, you're fallen from grace. For we through the Ruach wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. I mean, this is just so important. And it should be very humbling to all of us who, I hear some absurd things, how, well, we're more righteous than them, because we get it. We know the right name. We know the right feast. We know the right day. We know the Sabbath. That there's arrogancy that enters in, and that's not right either, because there is nobody on earth that is able to follow the letter of the law. I'm sorry, but you're not. There's one door into the kingdom. His name is Yahushua HaMashiach, and that's the only way in. And he's given us his Ruach HaKodesh as a gift, a precious gift, to help us walk in a way that is right. So Yah wants us to have joy and to be joyful throughout it all. Throughout it all, he wants us to have joy. So I just wanted to leave this word picture when we rejoice, right? Look, we've got a shen, a mem, a het, and a hey, right? Breaking it down to the primitive root word, we've got to rejoice, okay? Joy will destroy the chaos of division. Well, that unfortunately is all I have time for at this moment. I have more on this presentation, so I may just have to come back and do part 2. And for now, I will say Shalom.
Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.